For any investor focused on generating long-term income, the number one priority must be the preservation of capital. In this explainer, we will explore a disciplined investment approach that places risk management at the very center of the conversation, which is exactly where it should be. This rather curious quote from the novel The World According to Garp captures a profound insight into managing risk. The idea is that if you have already accounted for the worst possible outcome, you create a foundation of genuine safety. This is precisely the mindset we will be applying to portfolio construction. Let us begin by deconstructing investing into its two fundamental parts. By doing this, we can reveal a critical and surprisingly common error in judgment that many investors make, often without even realizing it.
While it is quite easy to become overwhelmed by the complexities of the financial markets, every single investment decision you make ultimately comes down to the relationship between these two elements, risk and return.
This distinction is perhaps the most important concept to fully grasp. You see, risk should be viewed as the input. It is the single variable that you can directly design and manage within your portfolio. Return, on the other hand, is merely the output. It is the result that flows directly from the risk decisions you have already made. Logically, one would assume that investors focus their energy on the component they can actually control. And yet, the opposite is true. The vast majority of investors fixate on returns, while giving very little consideration to the risk they are consciously or unconsciously accepting. So, why does this fundamental error occur so frequently? The answer is found not in spreadsheets, but in human psychology. It is a powerful and often subconscious force that can guide us toward irrational and ultimately destructive financial behaviors. At the core of this behavior lies a cognitive bias known as loss aversion. As one of the most potent forces in finance, its premise is simple. The emotional pain of losing a dollar feels approximately twice as intense as the pleasure of gaining that same dollar. This asymmetry has profound effects on our choices. This is not merely a theory, it is observable in the real world. Consider a study of professional golfers. An analysis of 2.5 million putts revealed that these elite athletes were statistically more successful when putting to save par, that is, to avoid a loss, than when putting for a birdie, which is to achieve a gain. Even at the highest level of performance, emotion can override skill. In the world of investing, this bias manifests as the tendency to hold on to losing positions for far too long. The investor rationalizes that a loss is not real until the asset is sold. This line of thinking is a dangerous trap that frequently transforms a manageable loss into a devastating one. We have now identified the flawed obsession with returns and the emotional biases that fuel it. Without understanding, let us now turn to a practical tool that can help you reframe the entire problem and sidestep these common pitfalls. To better understand how this tool functions, we can use a simple analogy. Imagine you're facing the stressful decision of whether to change jobs. You would carefully weigh the pros and cons, but the entire process is fraught with uncertainty and commitment. Now imagine a different scenario. What if, for a fixed price, you could purchase an undo button, an option to reverse your decision and return to your old job? Suddenly, the immense stress of the unknown outcome would vanish. Your focus would shift from the outcome itself to the simple known cost of that option. This undo button is not a hypothetical concept in the world of finance. It exists, and it is known as hedging, a strategy often implemented with a financial instrument called a derivative. Hedging allows you to define your maximum risk upfront, giving you complete control over your inputs. This brings us to a critical shift in mindset. We are about to see why the most successful long-term investors are often not the greatest risk takers, but rather the most disciplined defenders of their existing capital. For income investors, this point is paramount. Your primary objective is the protection of the principal that generates your income stream. Capital that has been lost is capital that can no longer compound or produce returns for you. Its preservation is therefore essential. Consider a fascinating study conducted by TD Ameritrade in 2010. They sought to understand what separated their best-performing clients from their worst. They analyzed everything from age and wealth to education and trading frequency. The surprising result was that, on paper, the two groups were almost completely identical. So what was the single material difference they discovered? It was this. The best performing investors consistently and actively used downside protection. They were the ones who systematically planned for worst-case scenarios and took concrete steps to protect their capital from significant loss. Let us now synthesize these concepts into a coherent strategy. In our final section, we will outline a simple yet powerful three-part framework for building a more resilient portfolio based on everything we have discussed. The true power of this approach lies not in any single component, but in how they work in concert. Combining low-cost indexing, thoughtful asset allocation, and a deliberate defensive hedging strategy creates a portfolio that is both robust and built for long-term endurance. And so, we will leave you with a final question to consider for your own investment philosophy. Is your portfolio intentionally designed to control its inputs, or is it passively constructed in the hope of achieving certain outputs? The answer is critical to your long-term success. Thank you for joining us for this explainer. If you found this discussion on risk management valuable, we would greatly appreciate it if you would like this content and subscribe to the FinBot Insights channel. We look forward to providing you with more analysis for the intelligent investor.